So then, where do Newcastle United actually need to improve on our team? But in this video today, we're going to go through everything. We're going to look at our best team, our second team, where we need to improve on, because obviously we've lost some players. We've only signed Elanga in this transfer window, so transfers are needed. We need some players on the doors, and we're going to analyse where I think we need them pretty much. Let me know your thoughts throughout the video. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. The support has been really good at the minute. Obviously we're back in pre-season. Obviously we went to Celtic yesterday and it was a good day out and stuff, but the result wasn't great, and we need to improve the team. We've got a lot of games, we've got big competitions coming up, and when he signs on the door and where we're going to improve, let's speak about it in this video, boys. So before I speak about the first 11 and where I think we need to improve on, firstly I'm going to speak about the two players that have departed Newcastle in recent weeks, and obviously one was just the other day. First one, Callum Wilson. I think it was probably his right time to go. His contract was up. He was just missing that last goal to get him to number 50 for Newcastle, but a brilliant servant for the club, 5 years, and really done the club proud, I'd say. It was just getting to that time where he had too many injuries and he just didn't have that pace to him, and with obviously Champions League football and all that coming up next season, I just couldn't see him fitting the role that we need him. We need players to be in this team who are going to come in and play fast and play the way Eddie Howe wants to play, and I think he was just fading away from that, Callum Wilson. But like I say, brilliant servant for the club, scored some really important goals throughout the dark times and the year we got Champions League football for the first time. So honestly, brilliant player. I wish him all the best. Where he will go, will he stay in the Premier League, drop down to the Championship, will he go somewhere in Europe? We don't know, but Callum Wilson obviously left Newcastle, which leaves our striker choices quite short. And the same with the midfield. Obviously Sean Longstaff joined Leeds United for, I think it was 12 million plus 3 million add-ons on Friday night. It got confirmed. Local lad, lived his dream, won a trophy, scored in the Champions League, played in some important games, scored some important goals, but I think it was the same as Wilson. I think it was his right time to leave, and I think if you give him another year, then it comes the next summer, then he leaves on a free transfer, then we miss out on that 50 million that we've just got from Leeds United. But look, he was a great servant for the club. He was been his only club for his whole career, and I do wish him all the best. Like I say, I think it was his right time to leave. Brilliant player on his day, scored some important goals, but he'll go to Leeds now and actually get some games under his belt, which is nice to see. Towards the end of last season, he was struggling to get in the team, and like Lewis Miley was having the knock over him, and there was a couple of times where he was quite poor having games, and fans were getting on his back and stuff. But look, I think he'll be proud of what he's done in Newcastle, and I wish him all the best at Leeds. So I'm just going to show two lineups, right? We're going to go through the best team that Newcastle United can put on paper, I would say. If everyone's fit, going into that game versus Aston Villa, first game of the season, how are Newcastle going to line up? I'm going to show that team, and then we're going to show the second team and say, wait, look, where do we need to improve on, and do we need to improve anyone on the first team? This is not just how I think we're going to line up against Villa. This is just, for my point of view, our best team, and this is how I think our best team would line up. A 4-3-3, as we all know. Nick Pope in goal. Obviously there's been a lot of talk about the keeper situation. Livramento right back with Shaw, Burn, Hall. Obviously people will argue, say, would you bring Botman in? Personally, I think we've seen it before. Eddie Howe doesn't really like playing two left-footed centre-backs, and I think obviously Dan Burn has to start for me. In the midfield three, Joe Linton, we need him fit. Obviously Tonali and Bruno, them three obviously work unbelievable towards the end of last season, and obviously all last season, to be fair. And then the attack, Gordon on his day probably better than Harvey Barnes. Alexander Isak will start up front. He's one of the best strikers in the world, and obviously we've just signed Anthony Elanga on his day. Anthony Elanga's a better player than Jacob Murphy. Looking at that team there, I still don't believe that team can be top four quality. I think there's still a lot of improvements just on the first team, never mind the players on the bench. Like, I think we've got to look at age, and especially for some players. Like Shaw is, I think, 34. Like, for the past 3 or 4 seasons, he's had that 1 year extension every time. Like, we do need a ball playing centre back who's young and gonna play instead of Shaw, because Shaw will start losing his legs, and it could cost you games, could cost you points, could cost you Champions League. And I'm not saying that will happen, but there's a high chance that it could happen, just for the sake of Fabian Shaw just being that little bit too old. But he's still Premier League quality, he's still well enough to play for Newcastle United. I just think we need someone to improve there. I think, obviously, we'll look at the cover and stuff later on, but the two full-backs I think are great. But like I say, I think we need good competition. I think it's always good to have good competition, because we've seen it with the left wing situation with Gordon and Barnes. It's like, who do you play sometimes, because Barnes gets you goals, but then Gordon gets you driven forward, has a bit more pace. You need that competition, and I feel like when players do get comfortable with, like, oh look, I'm the only left back, I'm going to play every week, or I'm the only right back, I'm going to play every week, they get comfortable, and it can lose them a bit of like desire to like play for the club. And I think we do need that. Goalkeeper situation, I think we do need to sign a goalkeeper. I think Nick Pope probably has one more season at Newcastle, start on the bench and like rotating. I do think we need a goalkeeper, and I think James Trafford is the perfect signing, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen now. It looks like he's going to go back to Man City, which I think's just so frustrating, because he's agreed personal terms with Newcastle for over a year and we still can't get the deal done. I don't know why, but for me, I think we do need a goalkeeper by looking at that starting 11. And obviously, I think I've always said it, especially at Celtic, and especially with games last season, Newcastle United have got an unbelievable starting 11, right? And on our day, we can beat any team in the world. But as soon as you start taking out a couple of players, even if it's one or two players, we look like a different team. The last two games of last season, Arsenal and Everton, Arsenal away, Everton at home, Joe Linton was injured, didn't play, and we look like a different team, like, just by taking that one player out. And then, like, look at the first half against Celtic. Obviously, I know Osula's still young, but you take Isak out, and there's so many games where Isak doesn't play and we look so poor. Like Arsenal, like Wilson played in that game and just didn't look at it. We missed Isak, and as soon as you start taking out a couple of players, that's when it starts to look scary, and that's where I think the cover is massive, and we need competition for these good players to like continue to play well. That's really the second team we've got. If, like, say, imagine every single player there was injured, how would we play? And looking at that start 11, I think that is very scary, and especially in one place on the team. So Dubravka in goal, yeah, again, I feel like I've said this a lot. I think Dubravka's probably got one more year in him. I think he's getting quite old now. Obviously, he's been at the club since 2018. Defensively, Matt Targett should not be in this squad, and we need left back cover. Like, we've seen it before, where obviously Tino can't play on the left and you can play Trippier, which we did towards the end of last season when obviously Hall got injured. But strictly going position by position, we need a left back, because yes, Tino can play there, but what if Trippier's injured? Or what, you're going to play Kraft at right back and then Tino at left back, and then the squad just gets thinner and weaker, and we don't need that. We need competition, we need good players in this team. So I think Matt Targett needs to move on. Obviously, I spoke about Botman. You could play Botman over Burn or Shaw. Just depends, really, personal preference. Hopefully he can stay fit this year. Jamal Lascelles, still club captain, still at Newcastle United. Is it time for him to move on and get some game time under his belt? He must be good in the changing rooms, clearly, because obviously he brings something to the team. And then obviously, as I mentioned before, Kieran Trippier, 35 I think next year, which I think is a big issue. Obviously, look, we need young players. Obviously, Trippier is a brilliant professional, had an unbelievable career, but we've got Champions League, Carabao Cup, FA Cup, Premier League, all until January. We've got so many games under our belt, and we need legs. And it's the midfield for me that is really, really scary. We've lost Sean Longstaff. I think it was his right time to move on, but we've got to sign players in midfield for me. Like I say, if Joe Linton, Bruno or Tonali gets injured, you're asking for big trouble, you really are. And the cover of Joe White, Lewis Miley and Joe Willock, it's not promising. Obviously, they are good players on their day. Willock's just too injury prone, and I think his time at Newcastle is probably coming towards the end. Lewis Miley looks a bit more stronger, a little bit more built up over the summer, but like I say, he's still so young. I think he's 19 or 20. He's like so young, and yes, he's got good games under his belt, and he's getting more game time, and he will get more game time next season with Champions League and all the cup competitions, and he will play more in the Prem. But we need more cover there, because them three there, it's not bringing hope if like one of the big boys gets injured, and that's the scary thing. We can't live with that. Oh, we've got to hope that Tonali doesn't get injured, or Joe Linton stays fit, or if Bruno doesn't get a red card. It could be any of them situations. You need good cover. In midfield at the minute, we don't have good cover, so I think we definitely do need to sign a midfielder. Attack-wise, I think the winger situation now is probably okay. I'm quite happy with the competition of Barnes and Gordon on that left-hand side, fighting for that place and proving Eddie Howe who should start, because they've both got different qualities and they both bring different styles to the game. Like, obviously Barnes is so direct and loves to get at goal, where Gordon likes to have a feel for the game and build himself into it and drive at defenders, where like they're completely two different wingers. Same with Murphy. Murphy's a bit like Gordon, where as like Alanga will just fucking run and obviously it's a situation, who do you start, Murphy or Alanga? It's just personal preference. I've only put Alanga in that first team because I do believe he's a better footballer than Jacob Murphy, but if Jacob Murphy's going to perform like he did last season, then I've got no doubts that he will have a good season. And then striker wise, Newcastle can't go in to next season with just two strikers, and it felt like a lot like last season we played with two strikers because Wilson was so unreliable and didn't have the legs. Asula will be good if we give him game time, right, which is absolutely fair enough, right. But if Isak gets injured, I am personally not... If Isak got injured and we had a Champions League game on a Tuesday, Wednesday night, I would not be confident with William Asula starting up front. I really wouldn't. Like, look, on his day, good player, can drive you forward, and he's a big lad, and he obviously got that goal against Ipswich towards the end of last season, but... Like I say, it's about confidence, and Newcastle United need good cover, because I think if you look at the teams around the top four last season, like obviously we know Chelsea with all their players. They look at Villa. Villa's bench towards the end of last season was really, really good. They had like Rashford and Asensio sometimes on the bench because they had like Marl and Bailey and they've just got so much options, whereas Newcastle don't really have them options, but we've got an unbelievable starting 11, so... It's one of them where you've got to, you probably do have to bite the bullet, and you might make players unhappy, like very good players unhappy, because you've got to sign good players to have that competition. If you don't have that competition, especially with the amount of games we've got next season, will be a big ask with that team we've got now, because we've seen it when we got Champions League football last time. We really struggled with the amount of games we had and the injuries that we got, and we were playing the same team for 3 matches in 7 days. It was really, really hard. We've got to sign good development players who are going to come into that team and actually help Newcastle, because that's what we need at the minute. I think the starting 11, a couple of tweaks there and there, but the cover on the bench needs improving massively. And there we go, boys, that is my thoughts. Let me know your thoughts on the full team situation. Obviously we've lost Longstaff, lost Wilson, we need signings in the door. Is it going to happen? I really don't know. Honestly, it's been a mad transfer window. I'm honestly sick of it. I really am. I'm honestly just sick of the transfer window. I wish it was just much easier and simple. And honestly, the news that comes out, it does drain you. It really does. Newcastle have got to try and sign some players. We've got to back Eddie Howe, because if we don't back Eddie Howe, then results don't go away. What are you going to do? Are you going to blame Eddie Howe, or are you going to blame the board? It's a mad one. Newcastle, just sign some players, please. That's going to be the end of the video, boys. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Let me know your thoughts on the transfer news and all the club situation with who we're actually going to bring in. See you in the next one, boys. Have a good one.